Hail, hail. Welcome back to Room 1-on-1 from Homeboys. It's that time again when the clouds darken, the stale stench of death hangs heavy in the air, the heavy march of evil forces can be heard in the distance. Yep, Celtic Park will entertain Rangers on Sunday afternoon for the first Glasgow derby of the season. So who best to have a look at the big one but the ever excellent and very handsome Tino from the Celtic Exchange. Well, Tino, how are you, brah?
I'm good, mate. I'm all the better for that dramatic intro. I enjoyed that, but I'm doing good, mate. How's things yourself?
Aye, good, mate. Good. Basically good. Right, you've already been on the show before, Tino, so we don't need to do the introductions and stuff like that. So I'm going to get rattled right into it. I'm just going to cover what happened last season, then we'll poke about that after that, and then we'll talk about this season and what's going on. All right, so bear with me here. Right, so last season, the Bromley Bullshot oversaw a massive overhaul and Rangers were on their way. An early start as Rangers lost 3 of their opening 7 league games, as well as a Champions League qualifying exit to PSV, and the mole was gone. On the 1st of October, Michael Beale was removed from his post and was replaced 15 days later by former Genk, Club Brugge and Monaco manager Philippe Clement. Clement oversaw an immediate upturn in the league, winning the next 10 of 11 league matches, and after a 2-0 away win over Motherwell on the 24th of December, Rangers had eyes on table-top match at Celtic Park. Also during this period, Clement grabbed the first piece of silverware available as a 1-0 win over Aberdeen at Hampden, securing the League Cup. Now, a 2-1 defeat at Celtic Park gave Clement his first defeat for Rangers, but Rangers recovered, and a 3-0 win over St Johnstone at McDermott Park, aligned with a 1-1 draw at Celtic Park between Celtic and Kelly, saw Rangers climb to the top of the pile. Despite a surprise home 2-1 defeat to Motherwell, a Celtic loss to Hearts kept them top. However, a flood in Dundee would end up costing Clement and Rangers dearly, as Celtic reclaimed the top spot and never let it go again. So after that Motherwell loss, Rangers would finish the league season with 3 defeats, 3 draws and 4 wins from the remaining 10 matches. That's quite a stat. See, when I was doing that, I was like, fucking, they did have a monumental collapse. But we'll come to that. Amazingly, during this period, Rangers won a game, 3-3, in a never-seen-before event. So Rangers finished in second place, 38 games played, 27 wins, 4 draws, 7 defeats, 87 goals scored, 32 conceded, plus 55 goal difference, 85 points on board, 8 points behind the champions, and 17 points ahead of Hearts. In the Scottish Cup, Rangers would match their league efforts and finish in second place to Celtic. On the 25th of May, Adam made a goal late in the game, winning the Cup. Now, Europe wasn't a bad effort again, to be fair. After beating Servette 3-2 in aggregate, the aforementioned 7-3 batter to Dutch runners-up PSV saw Rangers drop into Europa League, but they were drawn with Real Betis, Aris Limassol and Sparta Prague. Rangers would top the group on 11 points, home and away wins over Betis, a home win and a goalless draw with Sparta Prague, aligned with a cracking away defeat and a draw with Aris Limassol, edging out Sparta Prague into the round of 16. So they were drawn with Benfica. A great 2-2 away draw set them up there at Ibrox, but a 1-0 defeat fucked them out. So, in summary, a season started with big talk, turned into a shambles, and then being saved, and nearly a possible treble ended up with a League Cup and a whole load of doubts. Now, just give me your own thoughts on, and I know it's hard to put your head into their heads, but as a Tim kind of watching all this and laughing and kind of going, because your season was kind of roller coaster as well a bit. How do you think it went? Right, obviously how it went for us, but how do you think it went in a Rangers thing? Do you think it does leave them damaged?
Well, yes is the short answer. I think what you've got, class summary of the season there so far, by the way. What you've got is same old in terms of a lot of noise, a lot of bluster, a lot of bravado, and at the end of the day, very little to show for it. A League Cup to show for all your efforts. Talk of the treble at one point, and
that's right.
Headlines in the mainstream media, suggesting the same Rangers, Philippe Clement's Rangers still on for a treble. That's all well and good, but whether it's tabloid stuff or Philippe Clement himself making noise or Todd Cantwell making, whoever it may be, you can only make those noises when you've done something, when you've won a title, when you've won a double, when you've won a treble. Not when you've won a League Cup and you're chasing yet again. What are we now, Scott? 12 league titles out of 13, something like that. So it's not to be arrogant. It's not to be, what's the word? I don't know, gloating about it. But the proof's in the pudding. Celtic, out with the failures of the COVID season, to call it that, Celtic repeatedly dominate here. And I don't mind another team making some noise if they've got something to back it up with. But yet again, Rangers fell short when it really mattered. You know, the whole thing about, I caught the point you made there, you know, Clement was on this, I don't know, 11-game winning streak or unbeaten streak. That's fine against all the rest. You need to come and beat Celtic. And so far, he's been unable to do that. And that's ultimately the reason why they'll continue to finish second at best, maybe third, but you never know. But it's all noise. You've got to do something about it. Talk is cheap.
It is mad, right? Because I was critical of Celtic last season. I was critical of Brendan Rodgers. I felt Brendan Rodgers should have done better in those early days. I thought he... I did get the frustration. We spoke often enough, and I would dare say that you boys must have caught it in your show as well. You've played football at a pretty decent level. See, having a big, massive squad, it's infuriating because you've got a whole bunch of guys who aren't playing and they're just bad-mouthing everything, and it kind of worms into the team. And I did get the frustration, but I still thought he could have done better overall. But in the grand scheme of things, as you rightly said, every time the big games turned up, whilst we might have lost in Lazio, we looked the part, and against the Huns, we proved that.
Yeah, I think you'll talk about big game players, and I think Brendan Rodgers is also a big game manager. I think he's yet to prove himself in Europe, and maybe we'll catch that as part of this chat or maybe another chat. You know, there's work to be done there. But in terms of domestic here, you may be seeing it at times last season where he looked a wee bit less energised in some of the early games and some of the lesser games. But when it came to Rangers, and even, you know, in the days leading up to it and in his press conference, he came to life. I actually think right now he's in great form, if that makes sense, in terms of press conference. He's got a good energy about him, and I think he'll get the players that he wants in the next few days as well, but we'll see. But I just think that he lifted his game when it mattered most. I would disagree slightly with you in terms of, yes, there was, you know, a bit of flack coming his way in the early part of the season, but I think when we step back at the end of the season there and look at it, the players they inherited, you know, this whole summer window last year, the 8-9 guys they inherited, none of them have made any real impact. Palma slightly, Yang slightly, less so Odin, Thiago Holm, and then the rest is zero contribution almost, you know, the various guys there. And I think that's a real issue that he had to contend with when he came in. He had to try and, you know, rate these guys. He had to try and assess them on the hop. And he was throwing in Lagerbielke at the start, and Nawrocki get some game time. Yang and Palma get minutes in the early part of the season, but not once he worked out what was going on. And actually, when it got to the end of the campaign, Adam Ida was featured now and then off the bench or starting. That aside, the 10 other guys that he was going with, give or take, were all guys that had been here before last summer. Guys that he knew well from watching from afar when he was at Leicester, and he knew he could hang his hat on these guys. James Forrest being the big example, he had to go back to him, Callum McGregor, and all the other guys that were well established. So he had a real juggling act to deal with all those players that were brought in and foisted upon him. And the other side, as you rightfully point out, the chat has had a 32-man squad for the most part last season. You cannot keep 32 guys happy. You're lucky if you can keep the 11 happy, the 11 that are starting, and then you've got 7, 8, 9 guys on the bench to try and stop them grumbling and moaning, because guys just want to play football. That's in you if you play football at any level, but these guys are top professionals, and they'll all feel that they've got a part to play or should be playing a part. So I think try to keep 32 guys happy. That in itself is amongst his biggest achievements last season. The double and the silverware, of course, is the headlines. I think managing a 32-man squad, which he should never have had to manage, is a big achievement for him.
Yeah. That's all very fair. Yeah. I mean, as they say, like, kind of to the victor goes the spoils, so he can kind of look back now. I mean, like, when it go antsy, I mean, I know ultimately these Celtic Rangers games won us what we won last year. Obviously, it's common sense with the cup, but no getting beat at Ibrox and then winning that last one, that's the ultimate body blow. And he does it, as you said, every time it came to him, he looked like the most confident man. And guys like Matt O'Reilly has spoken up about it. He says he kept his calm. He didn't go off his nut. He didn't kind of lose a plot, which I can imagine I would do. Do you know what I mean? But to bring it back to Rangers before we jump onto this season. Now, do you believe that run that Clement had put in, aligned with the League Cup win, has gave them mere hope for this season? Because as much as the summer hasn't been great for them and they've been doubting themselves, we see a 6-0 win over Ross County and they're all back kind of, who knows? You know what I mean?
Momentum is huge in football, and I think at that time they got a cliched new manager bounce out of Clement, and that's fine. And I think Clement's got gradually worse or more baffling with some of the things he's been saying. But when he came in at first, he was certainly better than what was there prior. Michael Beale, like you mentioned. So he came in and he got that initial response from the players. He's a bit of a disciplinarian, so I think he probably cut out a bit of the bullshit in the dressing room and maybe realigned some attitudes. And Rangers, with their resources, absolutely should be best of the rest. They should be beating everything else, and then they'll see what they take or see what they can take in the games against us. So he done what he should have been doing, to an extent with that squad, and he went on that 10-11 game run. But psychologically, I think there's a real block at Rangers. And actually, they made the right move, in my opinion, by moving on Connor Goldson. They should have moved on James Tavernier in the summer, because I maintain that they cannot move on as a club with him on board. I don't think James Tavernier's a bad player. I think he's a good footballer.
Right, we'll hold that thought. We'll come back to him in a second. You've you've battered away there, bro.
Pull it back.
Pull it back.
I think there's a bit of a loser's mentality that goes with him.
Yeah.
And I just think that hovers around the club. And I think they need to start afresh. But maybe the resources and the funds aren't there to start afresh. So maybe that's blocking them, amongst other things.
The big one with Clement that stuck with me was when we beat them 2-1 in December. Was it 30th of December, was it? When we beat them 2-1 that day. And that was the first time he cracked. And do you remember he came out and he said, "Did you think they were better than us? Did you?" And I remember everybody kind of going, oh. And that was the first time I kind of thought he was. And then sure enough, some of the stuff he says near the later end of the season was kind of bonkers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's committed some months.
Yeah, right. So we'll move on to this season, right? So in the summer, the Belgian remains in charge and is overseeing somewhat of his own overhaul. So John Lundstrom, Bjorn Barrett, as you just spoke about, both finished their contract headed to Turkey with Trabzonspor. John McLaughlin, Ryan Jack, Kemar Roof all finished their own deals and went off on new ones. Robbie McCrory departed for an undisclosed fee. Connor Goldson, the aforementioned, he left and went to Limassol. Sam Lammers went to Twente. Kieran Wright, Jose Cifuentes, and Ben Davis just recently have all went loan to Airdrie Aris in Birmingham. Bit easier for the ins. Mohamed Diomande has had his loan deal converted for the priceless fee of $4 million. Shefty, a 20-year-old fullback, was picked up for Brazilian giant Fluminense. Oscar Coates had his own loan deal extended to next year. Now, well, they're due to pay some amount. I don't really know how much it is for him. Clinton Nisiala, a 20-year-old French defender, was signed from Milan in a free. Whilst Connor Barron, 21-year-old Scottish midfielder, was also picked up in a free from Aberdeen, as did Liam Kelly, 28-year-old Scottish international keeper from Motherwell. Hamza Ngamla, I have never heard of this guy until I looked today. A 21-year-old Moroccan forward was signed from Moroccan side AS FAR. Robin Proper, the cousin of Davy, a 30-year-old Dutch defender picked up from Twente for $1.5 million. And finally, Vlak Cherny was signed from VfB Wolfsburg on loan. The 26-year-old winger represented the Czech Republic 17 times. Now, with they guys included, and then looking at the rest of the squad, in general, who's your standouts from that Rangers team? I mean, there's obvious names, and so we'll start off at the back. Jack Butland. I think Jack Butland's a good keeper. Is he as good as they think he is? No, but alas, he's still a very good keeper, I think.
Yeah, he is. There's no doubt he's a good goalkeeper. He's maybe a wee bit short of the superstar they think he is, but he's a good goalie, and he's as good a goalie as Rangers could hope to have at this moment in time. Yeah. I don't think he's a problem.
Coming from McGregor to get him, they've done well.
Yeah, I think he's good. I think he's absolutely fine. So there's no issues there. I think it's what everything that's in front of him, give or take a few bodies, is a problem. As I say, you've got a right back in Tavernier.
So let's go on to him, right? Let's go on to right. First of all, how do we say his name? Is it Tavernier or is it Tavernier or what is it? Because or is it, do we just go with Tav? I hate calling him Tav.
It depends what day of the week you ask me. I'll go Tavernier the day, and I might say Tavernier tomorrow. We'll say Tavernier, right? James Tavernier. Right. So he, to start with, he has a big problem because he's a right back who can't defend. His numbers going forward are good. He's good in set pieces. He's got a decent delivery, all those things. He cannot defend and has never been able to defend. And that will always be an issue. So you've only got 4 guys at the back, and 25% of them, at least, we can get fillers, can't defend. And then you've got the Maeda situation, which terrorises him. So specifically in terms of our games against them, that's a real problem. Less so with other teams who don't quite go at them the way we would do. So he's an issue. John Souttar's an issue. I think he's really limited. I think he really struggles. He's got a mistake in him.
They've put their hoose on him. He's the man.
That's foolish because he's not the man. The left back, I've only seen glimpses of the boy Chefche, and he looks okay. He looks quite exciting going forward. The question will remain if he can defend. I don't know the answer to that right now. Yeah. And the guy proper, he seems to have a decent pedigree around him. I think he's 30 years of age. Yeah. I know he was injured last week, so who knows if he'll play, but if he's fit, they'll throw him in. If not, it'll be the old guy.
Balogun.
Who?
Balogun,
who I think has been a decent defender, but I think his best days are past. So just as a back four, there's leaks right, left and centre there.
I was surprised. I mean, the boy Robin proper, as you say, he's come in, he's played 3 games, but he's missing last week. He scored an OG on that Motherwell game. He just looks like a plain Jane centre half. There doesn't look like anything. He looks like somebody that Motherwell could have got from Holland, and you'd have went, right, he's a good player, but that's it. Do you know what I mean? I can't really see. I could be proven wrong. Souttar's the one that makes me laugh because, like you say, once I come to their team recently, he's an ever present. He's the man, and Davies is away. I was very surprised they let him go because he's been involved. He's been coming off the bench or starting.
Yeah, I think centre half's been a real problem for them. And again, similar situation in terms of Goldson. Goldson would always play, would always start, regardless of who he was. And he had some real big errors at different times in key games. So they've not replaced him with anything better. Proper might be, and don't get me wrong, I've not seen enough of proper to properly judge. But he's going to face a baptism of fire on Sunday here. I think he'll be really up against it. And it's a real test for a guy like that. He won't have seen or experienced anything like this as well in terms of the no fans situation from a Rangers point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that can go one of a couple of ways. And I think John Souttar, we have seen enough of him for me to be comfortable that he won't be able to handle whatever Celtic bring. And Chefche, to an extent, remains an unknown quantity as a defender.
Yeah, the midfield, I mean, what is the script with the Turkish fella, Yilmaz? Is he out? Because I noticed he started the first 3 or 4, but...
Well, I had a glance. I came in with about 20 minutes to go in their game against Dynamo Kiev a couple of weeks ago, which was a great watch. I highly recommend it. And he took a shot from the edge of the box and pulled up straight away.
That's what he did. That's right. Yes.
High muscle. So I think he was out for 46 weeks. He won't feature. Don't think he's around.
Because he's one that's been reborn again, isn't he? They thought he was the worst player in the world. Now they're kind of going, oh, aye. Seems like an injury, I know. The midfield I find really interesting. Right, so we're kind of covering 2 bases here. We're kind of covering the teams that they've been playing and the squad, but generally the squad they're playing is their team. Do you know what I mean? Like I say, but that Hamza guy, I've never seen the sight or sound of this guy.
So he's a guy, I caught the headline, they signed him, they paid 1.5 million, something like that, and there was quotes from Philippe Clement. Do you like my accent there? Do we have gone proper Belgian? There was quotes from him, early bells, about the fact that, we've signed him, but he's not ready for first team football yet.
Right.
And we're just cracking up because they don't have $1.5 million to throw around, and they've spent it on a guy who's not capable at this moment in time. He might develop into a player, but for Rangers to throw that kind of money around is madness for a guy that can't feature. He won't be around on Sunday. I wouldn't waste much more time talking about him, but it's maybe indicative of what's going on over there at this moment in time, that they're spending what is reasonable money for them for a guy that can't play. So no, he won't feature. He won't be around.
Yeah, so if you get into the midfield, so they seem to be playing to go away modern day talk. They're playing with 2 pivots, but I don't think they play like that. They basically play with 2 centre mids, do you know what I mean? Rather than 2 holding midfielders or pivots. Yeah. So Barron's in there. I'm yet to be stunned by the boy. Rangers fans are blown away by him, but I've watched a fair bit of him this year, and I'm not seeing. Maybe we're just spoiled on what we've got, but I'm not seeing. But he's an all right player. There's no doubt he's an all right player, but
yeah,
I'm not seeing it. But it's what goes in beside him. That Diamante's been playing in there. He looks all right. I think he looks like a decent player. But again, crack on.
So I think Connor Barron is decent. I see him though as very like Ryan Jack in several ways. Obviously, he's also come from Aberdeen to Rangers, but he's just a kind of running the mills, maybe been a wee bit doing him a disservice. I think he's better than that, but he's just a bit above average, and I think Rangers need a bit more than that just now. So he'll come in, he'll probably be a mainstay there for 2-3 years, just doing the workhorse stuff in the midfield and just ploughing away there. Diamande, lightweight as he is a decent footballer. He's never really had an impact against Celtic so far. I think.
Has he played much against us, has he?
I'm sure he played in the cup final when in the lead up to Adam Ida's winner. There was a moment where Scott Wright took a bad touch and Diomande went heading in on Callum McGregor. McGregor dinked it by him into Bernardo. Yeah. And Bernardo's done his thing, which went to the goal. So he featured in the cup final. Don't know if he was around in the games before that, but decent footballer. Again, he'll show up better against Ross Counties, and otherwise he's not done anything so far against us. The big question they've got, I think, is Sterling. Sorry about the dog. Sterling, who is a hardy competitor, a good player, but they can't find a position for him, and they seem so reluctant to drop Tavernier, because Sterling, I think, could do a decent job at right back. He would defend Maeda far better than Tavernier, and actually I think it would show some character, some bravery by the manager if he made that move, but he won't. So does he try and find a place for Sterling elsewhere? I think he probably does. He'll probably come in place of somebody like Tom Lawrence or whatever. He'll sacrifice a number 10, a playmaker, and he'll play somebody like Sterling to try and shore things up, in my opinion. So he'll be in and around the midfield somewhere. And if we're just staying on it, I think the guy Cherney, he looks to me like a guy that could be a good player for them.
Yeah,
he's got a bit of creativity. So I think he would slot in on the right wing. And on the left wing, I don't know. I can't think.
Well, Matondo's come in recently, hasn't he? Matondo's come in recently. And we talk about Tom Lawrence. Tom Lawrence seems to be the guy for them. They knew they came in. Everybody I spoke to always says Tom Lawrence is a great player. And I'll be honest, I've not seen enough of him because of his injuries.
Yeah.
But he seems to be a slow player. And once we kind of come to the recent games, I think him being on the ball is hurting them because he's allowing a lot of space.
Yeah, he's a luxury player, and the chat that comes through is that some bad injuries have hampered him.
Yeah.
I think he's had some issues there. I don't know the detail. He just doesn't look dynamic enough. He doesn't bring enough to the party, and I don't think he can carry passengers in this kind of fixture. I would say he is a passenger, and I think that's why he won't start. I think that's why Sterling would take that position. Yeah. You might well have Matondo on the left, a guy who wasn't a starter for them before and now is. They're regressing. I think they're struggling, and he may well start, and then you'll most likely have Dessers up top. That would be the
I think Dessers a certainty. I mean, Danilo will be on the bench, but Dessers has started every game this season. No matter what they think about him, he can still stick the ball away. But regards the squad, it's funny. I mean, it's funny where Rangers are. The Rangers are in this position with Hadji, right? And I mean, Hadji on his day, again, a smashing footer player, luxury player, covers him down to a fucking tee. But they're very much in the position they don't want to play him because they don't want to give him a fucking wage bump. And that's just, I mean, that just cracks to me 90s Celtic.
Again, it's just symptomatic of where they are. Whether, they've got their off the field issues with the stadium, they've got a guy, Todd Cantwell, who's getting paid well not to play football. Hadji falls into the same bracket. I think Hadji would play if they picked him, but I believe if he makes one more appearance, it triggers a rise in salary, which they can't afford. There's so much going on. Spending $1.5 million for the guy that I mentioned. There's a world of issues there, which is causing no end of grief between Rangers fans and the club. And I'm all right with that. Long may that continue. But you can see where the problems are coming from, and I think it's leaving Philippe Clement with limited options there. I think he'd really love to call upon Hadji if he could. The guy's an international footballer. He featured at the Euros. He's a decent player.
Yes.
And they can't access him. They can't get using him. So that must be frustrating for him. Although he signed his new deal, so he seems to be all in on whatever's happening. But his options are limited. There's no doubt about it. And I was having a glance at their team the other day, and we'll get to all of the Celtic stuff just shortly. And again, I hope it doesn't sound arrogant. I just don't see anything in that team that worries me in terms of what they're going to come and do at Celtic Park.
Right, okay. So as the expert of the year, that's a fantastic segue. Right, so league-wise, we'll look, where are we now, right? So league-wise, Rangers kicked off with an away tie versus Hearts. I thought it was actually a decent game of football. I watched the whole thing where I saw, in my opinion, a lacklustre Rangers that never worried me at any point. But at the same point, I said, Hearts look like a good team. There, I proved myself there. So they played out a 0-0. That was followed by a 2-1 home win over Motherwell, which, again, we'll come back to your point. Czerny looks like a real good player. Looks like a really good player. Not a fucking blindingly brilliant player, but looks like a good, strong player who'll do really well in Scottish football. Do you know a thing that I noticed? He seems to play in a lot of the same space as Tavernier. They seem to be in, to the point that what you're saying, if they could get a proper right back who's feeding the winger, I think they would get a lot more defensively in attack. But
I agree with that. I was driving on Saturday afternoon and I had the radio on Radio Clyde, and they were talking about the fact that Czerny is an out-and-out right winger to the point where it's held Tavernier back, whereas historically he would kind of try and do both jobs, and he would try to do both and not doing either very well. This is maybe making him, do more defensive duty. But to your point, you'd be better with a genuine right back in there.
Of course you would,
somebody that's their position. An Alistair Johnston type to feed a Czerny and let him go and do his creative thing. So
seeing that Motherwell game, mate, and it was so noticeable. In that Motherwell game, Motherwell missed an absolute, a one-on-one. They've not even had the target. And then Rangers have scored. And then obviously your man Proper scored. And then see the second half, see the last 10 minutes, Rangers literally could not go out their own half. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, this is wild, man. They look so scared. And then obviously the most recent match, again, the 6-0 stroll over Ross County. Again, if you go and watch the game, Ross County had chances. Like they had the first best chance of the game. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a crank save. And then Ross County were absolutely stinking. So then in the League Cup, controversial afternoon, but Rangers oversaw St Johnstone 2-0 at Hampden to progress to play Dundee later this month at Hampden, Ibrox, wherever they're playing their games now. And then in Europe, they were drawn with Dynamo Kiev. A 1-1 draw in Poland, scoring the last kick of the ball. Equaliser was followed up by a marvellous 2-0 defeat. I'm going to say it was great watching. And the sending off shocking, right? There's no doubt about it. And I can't accept he should have been booked for that. It wasn't a fucking foul, right? And I think the referee kind of even knew it wasn't a foul, but alas, I thought it was bloody hilarious. And the reaction on the night was even better. Alan McGregor near greeting them, it was tremendous. But anyway,
phenomenal.
Let's talk to you. Have you watched much of their stuff?
Yeah, I've seen bits and bobs. #obsessed, all that stuff. If I'm in and it's on, I'll put it on.
Of course,
I watched the Dynamo Kiev stuff. What else have I've seen bits and bobs basically, and the chat in the radio. As I say, I was driving on Saturday, and the chat in the radio is, this is the best they've played all season, which isn't hard because they've been so poor so far. I think they've kind of scraped by against St Johnstone. I caught bits of that the other Saturday night, the cup game at Hampden. Dynamo Kiev is a funny one because the chat, as I say, I got home about 20 minutes to go, but I was listening to Radio Scotland, and you're hearing, I think it's Billy Dodds and all his pals, and they were saying, Rangers really comfy, we just need that goal. They sounded really confident. and by the time I get in and switched the telly on, your man had been sent off and they were up against it. And yeah, I agree. The sending off isn't a sending off, and there's all, but he done this, this, and this. But he didn't get booked for them, and he get booked for a nonsense one.
Yeah.
But you'll take them when they come along. Poor decision, but Rangers had it in their gift to try and get a foothold in the game up until that point and couldn't do so. They scored a very late winner after being outplayed away from home. So I just think they've been scraping about. They catch that fixture at the weekend against what looks to be a really, really poor Ross County side. I was watching some of it. At 3 and 4-0, they seem to still be coming out. So, you watch the highlights and it could probably have been more than 6 by the looks of it.
Yeah.
But Ross County are still coming out at 3 and 4-0, and it's like, I think you need to kind of just, when you realise the game is done, damage limitation, regroup and get your team prepared for the next game. The last thing you want to do is take a 6-0 tanking or more. So I just thought they were really naive, and Danilo's goal at the end, the Ross County defenders are volleying balls off each other in the box and all that stuff. 6-0, I actually think that result could come back to bite them, because it might give them a wee bit of false sense of we're actually a decent team again. I don't think you are. I think you're beating a very, very poor Ross County, and you're coming up against a completely different animal in Celtic, and a Celtic that's in red hot form. We'll cover this in a few moments, I'm sure, but Celtic, regardless who comes in, are pouring at this moment in time. Matt O'Reilly's gone, and he was obviously a key part of that, but they're just playing with just real confidence and a bit of style as well. We're averaging 3 goals a game. I think that's, what have we played, 4 league games? Is that right? You'll have
3 league games, isn't it?
3 or 4. We're averaging 3 goals a game anyway.
Kilmarnock, Hibs and St Mirren, we played Hibs in the cup to 3.
So we're scoring goals. The interesting thing is none of our forwards have scored so far. Kyogo, and obviously Artemida's in the door, aren't scoring. But Brendan Rodgers is okay with that. He's very much into his support players getting the goals, whether it's your white forward, he calls them, or his midfielders. So yeah, as I say, Rangers are coming up against a completely different beast on Sunday, and I think they could really come unstuck.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that. And if you know me at all, you ever listen to any shows, pessimism is my friend. It's a good comfort blanket for me. Do you know what I mean? I always like to kind of, but you never know. But I thought, only from watching the highlights, admittedly, the Ross County game I was kind of saying the exact same as you. This is this guy's first job, and I kind of confirmed it myself there. That was Don Cowie's first job, because that was.
It's the same Don Cowie that beat Rangers last year, but he's lost Jan Dander, who's a good player.
Yeah, which is huge.
Probably one of the pillars. I think Ross County and a few other clubs find themselves in that position. Every season they lose their key player. Remember the guy, was it Reagan Charles Cook?
Reagan Charles Cook scored like 20 odd goals,
Joint top scorer with Giacomakis, but you lose him after a season, and that's just life at Ross County. That's just the way it goes. So I don't know the ins and outs, but they're obviously struggling this time around.
No, but I think certainly in that game, Tino, was, as you say, they've had this kind of history with them, but it's worked, and they've watched every other team go at them, I think, and get relative success, and they've went at it. But there's going to be a time, as you say, kind of right. See if the ball comes near it, just boot it to fuck. You know what I mean? Some of the things that were the goals they conceded on Saturday were bonkers, man, really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, even the first half, I think Rangers' second goal, and then they were taking the ball off the defenders and all that. So I don't think they can really gauge their season so far on the Ross County game. The Dynamo Kiev games would worry me. I again, like what you're saying, the Rangers media that we watch, be it Open Goal, be it fucking whatever, I thought Rangers were really good. I thought they were very average, and I'm kind of going, I'm watching it. I watched that first game, and we're texting each other going, I've seen better games of junior football. This is garbage. Both teams were stinking, man.
What game is that?
What's that?
The
Rangers Dynamo Kiev, the 1-1 game.
Right,
it was muck, mate. It was absolutely muck. Nobody could control it. Nobody could control the game. Dynamo Kiev looked like they had a plan. Now, coming back to Rangers, there's where I don't think I understand what Rangers are doing. And I've heard it ever since Clement's come in. Are they a long ball team? Because see if they're a long ball team, that's one style. I don't really care, but they're hitting things long, and then they're trying to play through the middle. And what I've noticed about them is they give away some amount of space. They give away so much space to counter. So much.
I keep hearing it from Gordon DL, of all people. He keeps asking that question, what is their style? And I think that's quite glaring that Clement's been in for not far off a year now, and there's no definitive style. Now, he might just be doing the pragmatic thing and saying, until I get better players, I can't play maybe the kind of football I want to play. And I don't know how he's played previously.
Yeah, exactly.
But what he is doing is he's been very direct. He's knocking up to his front man and looking for scraps and second balls. Actually, Connor Goldson used to play a big part in that. He used to get out his feet and play big diagonals, into the wings and all that stuff, or into the channel for Morelos at the time. And what we're seeing now, different personnel, but it's not too dissimilar to that. I don't know how that works for you at Celtic Park, because Celtic have got guys that can just mop that up. Carter Vickers and Liam Scales, if that's the centre-back pairing, they'll win most of those challenges, I think, and they'll just feed it into the McGregors, the Rio Hitatis, and the Paulo Bernardos, if that's who we go with, and we'll start again. And that could just lead, in my opinion, to wave after wave of Celtic attack. I don't know the answer to that, by the way. I don't have the solution in terms of what he should do as an alternative, but I just think if he plays the way he's been playing, he'll get what he's got recently against Celtic, which is nothing.
Well, so we've already spoke about the kind of lineup, what we're expecting. There was a guy, Cortes, that we kind of forgot to mention. He's kind of been flanking Lawrence sometimes on the left as well. Scott Wright started the season playing on left as well.
Yeah.
God knows if these guys are going to be getting in. But so last season, obviously the first game doesn't really matter. The one we beat them 1-0, that was under Beale. But we played them 4 times under Clement last season, right? So we've got the thing about us being admittedly very confident this coming weekend is we haven't battered them, not once. Do you know what I mean? It might have looked like it was going that way, but no point. I mean, so we had the game in December, Celtic 2-1, Bernardo with a great strike, Kyogo with a worldie, and then Tavernier scored. Even though they're a man down, Tavernier scores late and puts us under mega pressure. As you remember, don't get me wrong, Celtic at that point was very much just win. Then you get to the 3-3 game where we get beat 3-3. Maeda, Celtic should have battered them in the first half. We used to be 4-5 up, and then they've come in and you end up losing the last minute goal and you're pretty sick. The 2-1 game, O'Reilly, Lundstrom's off, and then Dessers scores from nowhere. You're in the. Admittedly, with that game, they never really tested us, as I remember. And then Ida in the cup final. VAR could have been a wanker and no chop that goal off. Do you know what I mean? And then so as much as we should. It's not really went like that, has it?
I think there's a few of those games that the 2-1 in December, we battered them 2-1 for the most part, but then Tavernier gets his goal with a free kick, and all of a sudden a wee bit of anxiety, and you're a wee bit nervous. And listen, I think over the piece, Celtic were good value for the win, but you're right. At 2-0, we've not gone on and made it 3 and 4. We've actually been a wee bit cagey. And likewise, the various other games, you'd have been hoping to hold on by going 3-2 up at Ibrox, and we were maybe, I was going to say we were holding on a wee bit then. I don't know. Momentum kind of shifted a few times.
Yeah, definitely.
But ultimately, whether we've won by 2 or 3 clear goals or just by the odd goal, it's just that winning mentality. Every time those players take the park, as in those Rangers players take the park, they know that generally speaking, the pattern is they get beat. I think the stat doing the rounds is it's 15 games. Over the last 15 games, they've beat us once over 90 minutes. It was the dead rubber at the end of 2 seasons ago.
3-0 game, yeah.
Cantwell scored and all that.
Big O missed the sitter, remember that? Running through, he tried to chip a goalie.
Tried to lift it, yeah. And the other one that they've won, it was the semi-final after extra time. So the game's been drawn in the 90 minutes. So actually, they've beat us once over 90 minutes in 15 games. Wow. That is an incredible record. And it's come about very quickly. I realised over the last few games that it was there or thereabouts, but that's incredible. So that means guys like James Tavernier and John Souttar and now Butland and now Dessers and various guys, they've all been part of that. They've been part of that losing group. Some are new in the door. They'll learn how to lose soon enough. But those other guys, they've been doing it for a while now in this fixture. And I just think that's a hard thing to shake off mentally. Tavernier and otherwise will be rocking up here on Sunday So right, rocking up here on Sunday and going, what do we need to do here? Because we don't seem able to beat this Celtic side. And they'll need to come up with something magical, something different, something we've not seen before to have any chance of coming away with anything. And I'm sure you'll ask, I'm not going to go and project 4 and 5-0 and all that stuff, but I think Celtic will win. I just think I can't see past us for that.
Right, okay, well, we'll come to your prediction in a second. How do you think they approach the game? How do you think we approach the game? Start with us. How do Celtic?
I can answer them both. We'll do what we do and they'll do what they do. You know, we'll go.
I fucking asked for that, didn't I?
I just think that we'll play in the same way that we do. You know, I think Brendan Rodgers' style. I was asking the question a couple of weeks ago on our show if what we're seeing now under Rodgers is every bit as exciting as some of the domestic stuff we've seen under Ange. You know, Ange ball has been raved about, and rightfully so. There was some great stuff under Ange. I think the first few games of the season have been great. You know, I've been at a couple of home games and obviously caught the away games. I think Celtic are playing really good football, and there's a number of guys that are key to that. You've got Nicholas Kuhn, who's come to life all of a sudden, and various other guys playing their part. I just think Celtic will do more of the same. They seem to have a real style of play about getting out to the wingers as quickly as they can. You know, the guys in the middle do their thing, get it out wide, and then Kuhn, the Doug's really excited for this game. Really keen. Getting it to Kuhn and James Forrest at this moment in time, and they then go and do their thing. And as I say, I think Rangers will try and soak it up best they can. They'll go and play for a draw, most likely. And a draw would be a great result for them. But I think they'll just need to camp in and try and catch stuff on the break with a direct long ball.
Do you expect them to camp in? Going for our earlier chat, I mean, we're basically saying that the fullback can't defend, so he doesn't defend. The boy Shefty looks very similar. I mean, like I watched the Ross County game, and it's him that's doing most of the attacking from the left-hand side. Do you know what I mean? He sets up the first goal. I don't suspect he'll be doing much defending. And then, as you say, they're playing it direct.
When Rangers have come up against us in recent times, Tavernier, particularly at Celtic Park, has struggled to get over the halfway line. You know, he's generally that's a Maeda effect. That's what that does. If they've got a Tavernier on the right-hand side who's quite attack-minded, and Chefche, new to this fixture, potentially naive to this fixture at 20-odd years of age, trying to bomb down the left-hand side, I think there could be huge spaces to be exploited. Celtic's wingers at this moment in time, it's not always been the case. We've moaned about wingers in recent years, but I think at the moment, I don't mind if Celtic don't sign a winger between now and Friday. I think we've got some decent guys out there. And Nicholas Kuhn at the moment is the most exciting one. I think if you get Nicholas Kuhn one-on-one with a guy like Chefche, who's more attack-minded, that could be a non-event. You know, I think Kuhn would take him at the cleaners. And we know what Maeda does with James Tavernier. So I think there's a couple of problems in those areas for them. As I say, the only alternative is if they do something different and play Sterling in there. But I just don't see him doing that.
It's funny. I've been this week. I've been listening to things, and there has been a suggestion of playing Tavernier. I think I've called him a different name. Everybody tell me say his name here, but I think there's been kind of queries. Why don't you play him further up the park? Now, I've told this analogy, I don't know, many times on your podcast. I had a fullback at St Mary's, and he was the fastest guy I ever had in my life, right? And see with the game in front of him, bang on. See with the game behind him, not a clue what to do. Absolutely not like freaking out on the pitch. Even at wing back, and I played him right mid once, and he was like, I need to get back. He wanted the whole game in front of him. And I mean, I don't know if it's different for professional football players, but I can't imagine at this point, if Tavernier was going to be a winger, he'd have been a winger 3 years ago.
I think he's 30, thereabouts. He's all the right back he's ever going to be, and that's where he'll play. You've seen it to an extent when England in the World Cup played Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield. Fish out of water, and he's a talented player, a really good player. But you're trying to make a player, you're trying to, change something that these guys have done for. James Tavernier's probably played right back for about 15 years, taking in what he's done now. You're not going to change it on Sunday coming for the biggest game of your season so far. He's right back or bust. If he's not right back, he'll go on the bench. But he's a captain.
And he's a captain.
They've boxed themselves into a corner there. They kind of can't drop him. What a message would that send? You're dropping your captain for the biggest game of the season. So he starts, and he'll start at right back. And that will always be a problem for them against Celtic.
I like it. I like it. Right, okay. I've got you. So how about we just have a wee couple of minutes before I let you go? A wee couple of minutes chat on what we think's going to happen this week. Oh, give me a prediction though. Just go on.
I keep going big with these ones. That's what I'm saying. I'm like 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go 2-0. A comfortable and confident 2-0.
Take would pay more. Right. So just this week, so you spoke about Celtic and incomings. Now, I'm hearing rumours Palmer might be for the Joe Ratoff.
Okay.
Don't know. The fact James Forrest has got a starting berth now is quite interesting, especially how he finished the season. Do you see us completing these signings we're going for? Are they the right guys? Would you like something else?
Just quickly on James Forrest, before I forget, if he plays on Sunday, that's his 500th appearance for Celtic, which is incredible. So good luck to James Forrest.
Boom, sticking him on a tenner.
I don't think he'll start. I think he'll go Mayu and Kuhn, but James Forrest should feature at some point, and I'd be delighted for him if he does. So I watched Brendan Rodgers' post-match there on Sunday with real interest. I thought it was really interesting. He was, as I say, he was on kind of lively forum. He was getting into quite a lot of detail. He was quite keen to stress. I've seen him on a few interviews. I've seen him do his Celtic TV interview. I've seen him do his BBC one, and then the main press conference that everyone was at. And in each of them, he mentioned, Stevie Robinson at St Mirren sets his team up in that 5-3-2, and the way to beat that is width and side to side. He was keen to stress that he'd worked it out. Basically, he was showing he's working. He was saying, "I know they're 5-3-2. I kind of pat yourself." And the way to defeat that is go side to side and stretch the game. And he was really keen to kind of stress that point of things. But the other part, he obviously went in deep on the transfer situation. He stressed that he wasn't over the top. He said, so far, I'm paraphrasing, but so far it's been unacceptable that we're getting into this stage of the campaign and this is how we sit. But he also seemed relaxed about getting the guys in. A few times he stressed that he was confident, and he was using words of that to that effect, that he was confident that he'd get the guys in he needed. Keeping in mind that at that time, this was on Sunday afternoon, he'll already have known that this left back, so Alex Baye from Barcelona, he'll have known that was quite far down the track as well. But he was sitting quite calm and he was mentioning various things. But the left back looks like he'll be over the line. It looks like we're certainly in the mix for Arne Engels at Augsburg and your man Bogus out at LAFC. And do you know what? The other guys that we've never heard of. So Alex Baye on Sunday is a good example of none of us got a sniff for that. None of the press, none of the media, none of your Fabrizio Romanos or anybody until it was a done deal, more or less. And I like that way of working. It was the same with guys at Diogo, and it was the same with various other guys that have come in semi-recently. So I don't mind if we're not getting a decent rumour, as long as Celtic then nail it and get the right guys in. So I'm taking my confidence from Brendan Rodgers' confidence. He seems fairly comfortable that we'll get the 2-3 in. And for me, Scott, if it's a left back, to at least provide competition, if not take Greg Taylor's place. And if it's a left-sided centre half, so the guy from Sheffield United, the American, is who we're getting linked with there. If those two guys come in, I don't know much about him, the Sheffield United guy, but seems to have a decent pedigree. If those two guys come in and we maybe get another option in the midfield, a quality option in the midfield, whether it's Engels or Bogus, then I'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah. I would agree with everything you said there. If you get the fact that Lagerbielke was eventually allowed to go, some to me that we're kind of confident we're going to bring somebody in the defence. Giving Taylor that competition is excellent, because I can't see Taylor losing his jersey. I think Taylor's looking game, but there'll be a point where we'll need him. And right now, I'm very content that Bernardo starts, but it's Bernardo's jersey to go with. But you bring somebody else to kind of push all three of the boys. I'm over the moon. I'm over the moon, mate. And then I'd like us to drop maybe a young guy in and to help the strikers, but alas.
I like that too. And it's great to see Francis Turley getting the debut and stuff. And I know he's a forward-thinking player. Maybe a bit to go. He needs to hit the gym a wee bit, doesn't he? But he's a young lad. We had Asim on our show. I'm sure you know Asim. And he was on our show last night. And he was talking about, he'd been listening to some stuff by Derek Ray, the commentator who now does the Bundesliga. And Derek Ray was raving about Engels and saying that he could be an absolute standout in Scottish football, and he can do that box-to-box midfielder role, that kind of sitting in but also getting forward. And that could be really exciting because I think someone needs to come and take the workload off Callum McGregor at times, particularly in
100%.
Europe. In Europe, you can't play with your sitting Callum McGregor and your more advanced Matt O'Reilly, Rio Hitati and Bernardo. I think you need two kind of guys like Callum McGregor and maybe one more advanced for certain games, at least away from home. And maybe somebody like Engels could come in and just give an alternative there to Brendan Rodgers. I think you maybe lean towards, I think you're talking about Rangers earlier on, but you're talking about the double pivot as the chat. You know, get two guys anchored there, give your defence some protection, and also have somebody decent up ahead in that. So I'm quite optimistic that we'll do some good stuff. And I know it's, where about now? We're at Tuesday and a bit here. We're right into the week, so there's not long to do it. But I do think and hope we'll get things over the line.
He's the one that's standing out to me, right? I mean, I do watch a lot of German football. I'll put my hands up and say that I'm not kind of totally blown away by his name. I know who it is. However, just for who I've been speaking to the last week or so and what I've kind of looked at, he's the guy that's really interesting me. I mean, I haven't done the same deep dive on the Polish fella, but this Belgian boy, I've put a wee bit, and I think and I would love to see Celtic if they're wanting. See, I think we've bid at 9 million, I'm led to believe. So we're almost breaking our records. Do you know what I mean? Which is exciting in itself.
It is, and I think it shows a bit of faith in Brendan Rodgers and long overdue. We know what he can do as a manager, and if you give him better tools to work with, he'll do even better. I had to laugh though. We again covered this in the show last night. It's like Augsburg want 9 and Celtic are like, you want 9? How about 6? We want 9, 6.5, and so on and so forth. And it looks like tonight, I think Anthony Joseph's reported from Sky Sports that we've gone to 9. So it looks like Celtic are being serious about it.
Yeah.
Or probably a bit too late in the day. And Brendan Rodgers has leaned towards the fact that there's things to be fixed about how we do these things. But right now you need to focus on the priorities, the here and now, and get those guys in. And if we get him and one or two others, I think we'll be in a pretty good place.
Yeah. Right, mate. As always, I could sit and waffle away to you all night. But I'm going to start off by saying thank you for taking your time out to speak to me. It's been really, really appreciated. I think everybody will enjoy it. Before we go, tell us about the channel. What have you got coming up? What have you got planned and stuff? And after that, where can people follow you as always?
Aye, there's some exciting stuff going on just now. So, and there's a few things that we're going to announce. Let me see where about August. Probably around about this time next month. There are going to be some changes in the show, and I'll let you know off air. But there's some things happening which will be good. All positive things for us as a channel. But hopefully we can firm up on them and let folks know soon. But generally speaking, as anyone that follows us generally knows, we do a weekly show on a Monday night, and we do pre and post match shows for every Celtic game, and we also do some special episodes. So the big thing for us, and you guys were great in helping us promote it last season, was the Battle to Save Celtic, the series all about the Fergus McCann takeover. So loads of good stuff there. You'll find us in all the usual podcast places, but the CelticExchange.com is your best place, your kind of one-stop shop, which details everything we do. So, that's about the gist of it. But it's always great to come on, Scott. As I say, really appreciate the support with the Battle to Save Celtic and some other things, and always good fun to blather Celtic.
And you, brother, and you. Well, have a fantastic evening. Hope your team wins at the weekend. I hope we sign hundreds of people and we get an easy draw in the Champions League. Just that's all I'm looking for.
It's not a lot to ask, is it? But it's a big week. Champions League draw Thursday, transfer window Friday, Barton Rangers Sunday. Lots of good stuff.
You'll be a busy man.
That's it.
Right, mate. All the best.
Okay, mate. See you soon.